So, what are your intentions with your business? Do you have like a 5 year plan? Do you go way out like that? Or what is your plans for like the next couple years? Now, I know it must be somewhat tempered a bit because of your growing family, but where do you see yourself going with the business from where it is now to where you hopefully want to get to in the future?
Yeah. I mean, it's still kind of modifying and morphing to figure out what that looks like. I made a pretty big shift this year. The first 2 years of business, I was working primarily with solopreneurs.
And now, here is singer songwriter, broadcaster, audio video artist, entertainment agent, and your host. It's the master storyteller himself, James Kevin O'Connor.
Hey, 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 it's a beautiful day. Yes, a beautiful day indeed to go out west. That's where we're heading today. But before we get into that journey, I'd like you to just take your phone if you have it. In the upper right-hand corner, you could hit one of those three buttons and you could forward this show to a dear friend who may really value the content in this episode. Well, we haven't had a coach on in a while, so I thought it was about time. So we're hanging out in Columbus, Ohio today, and we're going to uncover some real pearls of wisdom from this woman, and she teaches us it isn't about know, like, and trust. It's about like, then we want to know. Then we build trust, and that is when the magic happens. You better strap up your seatbelts because we're taking a ride today to Columbus, Ohio, from the Music City to hang out with the follow-up boss. Yes, indeed, it is Bethany George. So let's have some fun. What do you say?
Sounds great.
All righty, here we are. Bethany, welcome, Bethany, to podcasting your global career.
Thank you, James. I always appreciate it.
And today we're podcasting your global career. So, Bethany George. It's Bethany Ann George. Now, do you like to be called Bethany Ann or should it just be Bethany?
Generally, just Bethany.
Okay, cool. Because I've got that middle name thing working too. We won't even go into that whole crazy Irish Catholic story about the middle name and all that. But great to have you here. And Bethany is a seasoned coach, has her own coaching business, has her podcast, and also you are known as the
I'm the follow-up boss.
the
Yes.
follow-up boss. I love that. At the bottom of your signature, I've been including that in some of the correspondence to show people because I think it's a really cool handle. So let's start with that, the follow-up boss. And this is a lesson for so many of us, especially me from coming from the music world. Do I know any people who don't follow up? Nah, not the musicians now. They're still sleeping at 3 in the afternoon, a lot of them. So tell me, how did you get to be the follow-up boss?
Oh, yes. Well, I mean, just like anything else, it's been a journey. I like to say that I've been an entrepreneur since I was yay high. And I know most of your viewers won't see me, so it's going to be shoulder height. I've been an entrepreneur since I was a kid. And I've been selling things since I've been a kid. Starting out with selling home baked cookies or Girl Scout cookies, or, I have all kinds of things that I did. And as a kid, it's way easier. But as I grew up into an adult and got into adult business, it was harder. It wasn't as cute. I wasn't selling something quite as appetizing as cookies. And what I really learned very early on is that one, I cared very much for the people that I was connecting with. I wanted that to be a relationship that was mutually beneficial. It wasn't just about me pitching something to them for my own gain. And I was also, I was very reactive when that relationship would be hampered by sales techniques. Um, and also, those relationships, the good ones, the ones I built and put intention into, would lead me to better opportunities. So, with that in mind, as my journey brought me through direct selling, through I attempted a personal business, a service based businesses years ago, went into corporate sales, And eventually, when I went out on my own into a coaching program, I asked myself, I says, what is it that I love to do? And I'm a self-proclaimed extrovert. I love meeting people. Absolutely could just network all day long.
I could
Sit down
tell
and
by
have
our
coffee.
first meeting. I could tell. Yeah, that was awesome.
And James, probably you can attest to this too. I'm really good at asking lots of questions because I really want to know all about the person I'm meeting. Um, and what I really found was when I focused on the other person, when I looked at what their goals, dreams, hopes, passions are, I could figure out ways to support them, and that creates a social capital of sorts between us that allows me then later on when I do need something, because at times I need stuff too. I've already built a capital with that person and I can reach out. And James, you were just talking about this before we started recording.
Yeah.
Um, it allows me to reach out. And so here's the thing. Here's how it all ties into follow up. What I found is that truly the definition of follow up. Everyone says the fortune's in the follow up, right? Um, and what that actually means for me is follow up is purposeful and intentional interactions over time. It's instead of thinking that every hello is an introduction to immediately jump into a business and focus just transactionally, which in business we oftentimes do. We get so caught up in what is the obvious transaction available to us. We forget that the other person sitting on the other side of the table, on the other side of the screen, is still a human being that wishes to be seen and heard for who they are and their desires. And when we can do that, we build intentions and we build a relationship that goes well beyond what we want and need in this very moment.
Yeah, that's yeah, you're right. It's the law of reciprocity, but it's also like you're pointing out the nuances of that are really, really important. Like all the little tangible ways that you can connect with somebody in a way that is not intrusive, and it's in a way that is not expecting reciprocity at that very moment. And I'm wired that way. I don't, when I refer somebody, I'm of the mindset I don't want anything back from you. And maybe at some point I say, oh, this would be a good person to call and ask. But it's not like I have something here and I'm holding it, and with my other hand I'm holding something else, and it's like it's got to be that instant exchange, or all bets are off. It's more like you really want to give from the heart, and you really want to do it in the most honest and sincere way that makes that person feel like, oh man, they thought of me.
Yeah.
And that's really what it's all about. It's like they were thinking of me. And don't spoil it by saying, hey, by the way, what do you got for me? It's like, boom, get out of here, get out of here. So I think when you have that kind of wiring, which you and I clearly have that, this thing becomes almost a pleasure to work this system.
Yes.
Because it's building a very valuable just sort of a network of goodwill. And even if you don't have the thing that I want or that I have ready to offer, you'll know somebody who can connect me to that person who needs what I have. And I get so much satisfaction out of fulfilling that need for somebody, even if I have to do it through third party. It's just like, hey, it's like, you got this coat. I get a quick story. I worked as a contractor in a previous life, and we were working for the New York Jets, their training camp. And they kept calling me, come on over here, we got something for you. And it took a month. I got over there. He gave me a Jets jacket, one of those big, big coats that the guys wear on the sidelines.
Oh, wow.
And I said, what am I going to do with this thing? I'm never going to wear this. And I found some kid who had like a hardship. And through third party, I started asking around, hey, he's on this size. This thing's probably a $300 jacket. I'm never going to wear it. And this kid was a Jets freak, and he had a disability. So I made some kid's dream come true that I never even met by just finding a home for the coat.
Yes.
So I feel like if we could do that for people, then that's so much better, So
Yes.
tell me, you came up with this title by using this system, Bethany, and when you first thought of it, did you feel like, do I deserve that title? Or what was your thought process when you came up with that?
Oh, that's a great question. And I'm one of the first person that will say there are moments when I suck at follow up too. The reality is that, and this is one thing I try to tell people. I will never judge you for not being good at follow up. I just want you to be intentional.
Yeah.
And when I started this journey, when I really started figuring out what was necessary to build relationships in business and to do it in a way that both felt genuine and felt good because so many people get into business because they care about what they're doing and who they're serving, right? So that's a key piece of it. And it still has to be profitable because at the end of the day, we're doing business because we have bills to pay. You know, I
Right.
have I have 5 kids. We just went to the beach and we spent a ridiculous amount of money just on food.
Yeah.
So like I understand. Um, so I recognize this idea of these purposeful, intentional interactions and the need for it. And there's elements to it that are needed, right? And I recognized early on that I needed something to help me keep track of it. So tools are a big piece of it. And there's a lot of really great companies and tools out there that help you do that. But the other piece of it is you have to understand why you're doing it. There has to be a purpose behind it, and there also has to be a how. And that's a piece that I see is missing so often in all these great tools out there and all these available methods. A lot of times people forget what they're actually trying to do. They just think I just need to send more messages. I just need to they break it down into like a base element and they forget the humanity that needs to stay involved in that piece.
Yeah. Where was the moment where you decided that you were going to be a coach? Like, was this a process that happened? Was it an epiphany? It just boom, I want to coach, or was it a process of, some things kept happening that kind of channeled you into this area? How did it go for you?
Yeah. So I think when I first started this business and was really figuring out what was my area of expertise, and figuring out the branding, the naming, and all that, I didn't think about it as coaching. I thought about it as service. And honestly, one of my very first services was let me help you take all the business cards that you've collected on your desk from networking or whatnot. And we were still in person network at the time, and do something with them. And it just seemed so basic. That wasn't coaching. That was just a tool, a service. And as I started working with a handful of my local business people around that, I started recognizing what people needed. And that's where I started seeing that I had an expertise that where I had taken for granted, others didn't have that. And so it was kind of a transition. And even now I'm transitioning into kind of a more of a consultation space, which has been kind of fun.
So that tells me that you're just more than the one trick pony, because if you're that, you're not only coaching, but you're consulting, which is another level, which is a really great level. I find myself in that space at times. So now that you're in there and you're finding out there's more areas for you to serve, have you discovered that there's a certain section of people, a certain area? Is it women? Is it men? Is it professionals? Is it CEOs?